Community Forum is sponsored by the Easton Grange 196 and a friend of Yardley Wood Rink and the Easton Lions Club.
There's a storm across the valley, the clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away. The whining of his wheels just makes it colder.
Welcome to Community Forum. Today is February 22nd, 2024. I'm Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, your host, and today I welcome Ashlee Rafeld, who is on the Easton Cultural Council, a very important organization and one that we're going to learn a lot about today. So Ashlee, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So nice that you're here, and we're going to learn a lot about the Easton Cultural Council because even I don't know. I know that you give out grants and so forth, but I don't know where your funding comes from. I don't know what your goals are. So let's talk about that. But first, let's talk about you. You're an Easton resident?
I am. So I was born and raised in Easton. I moved away during college years in my 20s, and then as I had a family, I decided to move back. So, Easton, through the lens of a child compared to the lens of an adult, it's such a robust town. And really, the Easton Cultural Council is designed to just enhance all the offerings that Easton has.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't realize you were a townie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Oliver Ames graduate. No.
Yeah. Well, I think we're quite a few of us here,
right?
In Easton. Okay, so how did you get interested in the Easton Cultural Council?
Yeah, so when growing up in Easton, a lot of the events that I attended was really through an affiliated group. And typically that would be like sponsored with the high school, for instance. And so otherwise it's, playing outside and, tapping on friends and neighbors to come play with me in Borderland. And as an adult coming back with small children, I found it really important, particularly with, tech up and rising in children's lives, and then particularly with the health and safety concerns and isolation from COVID, to really get more involved into the community. And so this was just very complimentary of something that I could do just to take the next best step forward with helping the community. I do work full time. I have a family, and so it was a type of manageable contribution that I could then insert myself into the community by having the privilege of providing grants for a variety of different communal events, really.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your participation on the council.
Yeah, so I am the treasurer of the Easton Cultural Council. I joined in June of 2020, and I just re-upped for another term. So my term ends in 2026. So I do want to mention that we have a vacancy for folks that are interested. And just let me allow myself just to tell you a little bit about the organization. So we're a group of board members who are essentially volunteers, and we are one of 329 local cultural councils that service 351 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So the state legislature provides a financial allocation to the Mass Cultural Council, who then provides an allocation to Easton. And so I have the privilege, as well as my fellow board members, of voting and approving specific applications that are based on topics surrounding the arts, sciences, as well as humanities, to essentially give back to the community through channels like festivals and workshops and artists and school programs, and being able to provide more educational content to enhance the culture of Easton.
So who are the applicants recently who have applied for these grants?
Yeah, so we just completed our awards for 2024. In the past, they've been very well-known communal events like the Easton's Lions Club. I call it still the Lighting of the Rockery, though I think it's now the Holiday Festival, the NRT Harvest Fair, but then also, the diversity around, Zumba for the elderly and, African dance. So it can be a variety of different types of events just to get folks out of their comfort zone, really, and provide more of an educational base to, learn more, have a growth mindset, feel a little bit uncomfortable, be a little bit silly. And so I think that's more important than anything, just to try to elevate people's mindset when it comes to a diverse community.
Yes, and I believe that you have supported the Shelltown Cultural District's concert series in the summer.
Yes, those are definitely one of my favorites. And not to say I don't think on paper I can have a favorite, but those quick hits of just even passing through downtown and just hearing that music and popping in and popping out at your leisure it's something that seems relatively benign, but it really does cultivate a sense of community, within this town particularly.
Well, I'm a member of that board, and we certainly do appreciate the council's help. For the first time, we had a finale festival in September of the concerts, and we had 5 bands. It was quite amazing, and the streets were closed down the way they are for the holiday fair. And of course, those concerts and the finale always take place on the steps of the Oaks Ames Memorial Hall, which is a venue for cultural events and for weddings and other personal choices for people here in Easton and elsewhere. So we have a lot of people who are enjoying this wonderful Oaks Ames Memorial Hall facility. So you, as treasurer, you must get the money from the state. Is that right? You get it from the Massachusetts Cultural District?
Yes, and I'm happy to say that our funding has actually has increased from the state year after year over the past 4 years or so. And so we do provide an open window of opportunity every year for anyone who's interested in hosting a cultural event. The window is in the fall, typically from September 5th to mid-October, like October 15th, where you can get an application on our website, which I believe will be shared with you at the end. And the application just has to provide a description as to how the program will directly impact and benefit Easton residents, as well as a date, time, and location. And then once that window closes, our board members will meet in general, typically once a quarter, but at the end of the year, I like to call that our Super Bowl meeting, just because we thoroughly review all the applications and then decide which ones will get awarded a grant. This past year, it was really our most popular year since I've been at the council. I want to say it was above 45 applicants or so. So I'm glad to see the volume and the engagement with the community of identifying how important it is to really have those events, particularly after COVID. I think it's been very popular, and it's with our pleasure to fund those types of activities.
My goodness, 45 applicants.
Right.
So you really have your homework cut out for you, don't you?
We do. So not to deter anyone from signing up for the vacancy, but it's really a relatively light lift. Those that are really our stakeholders of leadership do have more action than the typical members. However, I would say we meet about once a quarter or so. Our meetings might last anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, though during the end of the year, that's more of a heavy lift. So what's nice about it being treasurer is that, the events are scattered throughout the year. So upon completion of the event, the applicant would then submit for reimbursement, and that's really where I come into play and work with the town accountants and move forward with processing those reimbursements so that they get funded.
Yes, because we must point out that the Easton Cultural Council is an agency of the town.
It is, yeah.
And so the funds which are transmitted from the State Cultural Council go through the town, and so you have to deal with the treasurer.
Yes, I do, and Wendy, who's the town accountant, I work very closely with as well, and it's always a pleasure to work with those folks. It's so easygoing, and they make everything a very light lift for us, which is fantastic.
That's great. So they cut the checks.
They do, yep.
Okay.
So really what we do is more of the vetting process, making sure that the event took place, there's proof of that, there's a list of expenses that are then provided within the reimbursement application, and then just making sure that facilitation of payment is actually completed.
Wonderful. So what satisfaction have you gotten, and are there any particular stories that you'd like to relate that exhibit that satisfaction?
Yeah, so I think, I'm a mom of two kids in elementary school, so I think the proudest moment that I have bared witness to is Raising Multicultural Kids, which is another organization here in Easton. And so they have applied for a grant just to have more of themselves inserted into the school curriculum. And when my kids came home, they came home with their skin-colored Play-Doh and just creating their own colors and identifying from their peers the differences that everyone created all on their own. And it was so touching because it was such a simplistic, basic exercise, but with such a substantial meaning behind it that they immediately just identified the difference of skin tone and the receptiveness of making sure that everyone felt included. And perhaps the exercise only lasted maybe an hour, if that, but it made a lasting impression within them.
That's wonderful. Raising Multicultural Kids is a fabulous organization. I have interviewed Kelly Lamb, who was one of the founders, and her executive director, Denise Barboza Lane, and some of their programs, their bedtime stories. We had a great program on that with all of these competitive athletic women. So I'm very familiar with their program. And they have educated teachers in our school system and in other school systems to help them integrate diversity education into their curriculums and to bring some sensitivity to that issue. So, and they also have teachers that are from Bridgewater State, I think, University's teachers program, who have gotten positions, who have been trained by them and then have come in, and they're students at Bridgewater State, and they come into the classroom with a special program. So Easton has benefited tremendously from this, but now they are in other communities in here in Massachusetts, in this region. So they are expanding and certainly helping kids to grow up so that this racial divide is hopefully in the future won't even be an expression that we share. Okay, right. So that is the hope. So that's a very touching story. So what do you see, what would you like to see funded in the future besides programs like Raising Multicultural Kids?
Yeah, so, I think personally I do a lot of work outside of the scope of the town. For instance, the United Nations Association of Greater Boston, I'm on their International Women's Day Committee, so we have a special event coming up on March 7th at the Boston Public Library. And then, just working with the youth, particularly with girls entering in finance and financial services. I volunteer through Rock the Street, Wall Street, just to be a mentor for these girls. Though, while I have my own preferences, we do take a board approach and we all have to vote. And so, it's not just about, my individual likes or favoritism. We actually poll the community. So typically once every 3 years or every other year, we'll have a booth. In the past, it's been at the NRT Harvest Fair, where oftentimes, unfortunately, I feel like we're one of the earlier tables, so we tend to get bypassed, but please stop if you see our booth. And we solicit feedback. So we really ask the community, what do you feel like is lacking? What do you think we should emphasize and stress for importance? And then we really implement that feedback with our next grant cycle. So please stop by our booth. I'm sure we'll have some form of representation there this year. But again, we do take your feedback very seriously. So that has been, one of our main focus in the past in regards to diversity, equity, inclusion. And so, that was a great example for raising multicultural kids. Another one was music. And so we do fund events that Tempo has, as well as, a variety of orchestras and choruses throughout really the Hockomock area.
And let's explain. Tempo is a parent group supporting the music programs at Oliver Ames High School.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when is this NRT affair happening, when people can give their feedback and help you so about other worthwhile projects that you could fund?
Yeah. So I think it's typically, it's in the fall. And so when you first go into the sheep pasture area, I should say, that entrance where the sheep is, we're usually right out at that bend.
Okay.
So
that would be the first Sunday in October.
Yes. Yeah, you probably know better than I do.
Always. And sometimes it falls on my birthday, October 2nd.
I'm an October baby too.
You are? Yeah. So are you a Libra also?
I am.
Oh, yeah. Well, for those in our listening and viewing audience, we know that means that we're very balanced people. Libras, the scale of justice. So we're all about justice and equity, and I think that plays a big role in our lives.
Right.
So I want to thank you so much for appearing on Community Forum today, and we appreciate all you do, and thank you for asking people to think about joining the council. You'll have a real say in what cultural events the council supports, and making those cultural events happen. What a wonderful possibility for you who are interested in sharing these events in Easton with the public. So thank you so much, Ashlee. I appreciate your coming on board.
Yeah.
And for our listening audience, I hope you have enjoyed this program as much as we have enjoyed producing it for you. So don't forget, first Sunday in October, stop by the Easton Cultural Council booth, write down the organizations or events that you would like to see sponsored, and think about joining the council. Until next time, be well.
Community Forum is sponsored by the Easton Grange 196 and a friend of Yardley Wood Rink and the Easton Lions Club.